My wife hears voices in her head. If I lean in and rest my ear against her temple, I can hear them too. I told her there was no monster in her closet as I picked her up and told her she could sleep with us tonight. I figured that was the safest way of getting her out of the house without him realizing that I saw him. After I asked the crystal ball to tell me how to escape death, I was very confused when it read, "No thanks, honey, I'm full." However, something clicked in my head when my wife offered me cake after dinner that night. The beautiful woman shot her eyes open, looked at me, and said, "Stop." That day, I quit my job as a mortician. I decided to kill off a few characters in the book I'm writing. It would definitely spice up my autobiography a little. Alone and afraid, I watched as my son, swollen and red, began to die. That's S-U-N. I used to think the scariest thing you could see on our doorstep at 3 a.m. was a crazed killer with a knife. That was until I saw the two solemn-faced police officers, and remembered my daughter wasn't back from her night out yet. As I came home, I saw a note on the counter that said, "I don't need these anymore." Alongside the note was an old set of keys that I had lost months ago. I asked the genie for $1,000 a day for the rest of my life. Sighing, he gave me $3,000 total and said, "Good luck." They'd promised me, "We'll feed you for life." Now they won't let me leave. And now I have all the spiders I could eat, eaten in the dark, handful by wretched handful. I closed my eyes as I floated outside the space station, and I felt total peace. That peace only lasted until I realized, with my eyes still closed, that I'd let go of the handholds.
My mom says I need to start taking my schizophrenia medication again because it's unhealthy for me to suddenly stop taking them, but it's the only way I can keep her around. When my daughter held it, the doll exclaimed in a surprisingly realistic voice, "Let's be friends forever!" Funny, I thought the whole thing would be too old to have a voice box. I sighed, turning up the radio as the police car pulled me over miles from civilization. Suddenly, an emergency broadcast cut in over my music. "If you see a police car south of town, do not pull over. We do not have units in the area." Looking up from my newspaper at the crowded cafe, I was surprised to find the normally bustling streets around me empty. In the silence, I heard a voice booming from the heavens, saying, "The simulation has ended. All assets are being deleted." She looked like a savage alien when she was born. The tiny, dismembered leg she clutched with her body looked like a human, though. My friends were all savagely murdered the same night, exactly 1 year ago. I sit grinning on my own bed in my own home with my sins, assumed to be grieving on this anniversary, simply because dead men tell no tales. In the light of the rising sun, I can see handprints on my window. My 5th floor window. The creatures came for us after our hearing entirely disappeared, a whole world deaf. The single sound we can hear now is the screams of their victims. She took the kids away from me. It, dragged them screaming into the woods, and no matter how long I searched this forest, I haven't seen a trace of them since. I still remember that hide-and-seek game from all those years ago. They were never found.
When I was a baby, my mother would hum me a beautiful song, so when I had a baby of my own, I decided to hum the same song to my child. I came out of the room and my mother asked me, "Where did you hear that beautiful song you're humming to your baby?" My kitten is asleep on top of me as I lie awake, listening to the comforting sound of her purr. I don't know how she keeps finding her way to my grave, but her presence certainly makes the darkness of my coffin feel less lonely. "Thanks for walking with me through the cemetery. They're so creepy after dark," I told the stranger. "No problem. I felt much the same way about cemeteries when I was still alive." I miss my best friend's voice so much that I always replay the last voicemail she left me before she passed away. 3 years out, it still hurts hearing her screaming for help on the phone and wondering what I could have done differently if I had answered. I've always fantasized about how I'll survive the zombie apocalypse and even be prepared for it. But I was never prepared to be patient zero. I saved my dad from the scary man that approached the door. As he rewarded me with a car ride, he cried, "You were a good boy. I'm so sorry." According to the computer's readouts, the astronauts' oxygen gave out 5 days ago. So, why are they still screaming? The pilot woke up from the surgery, but they just glared at him. "We've implanted the bomb," the man said. "Now, fly the plane tomorrow, or your family will die." You wake up with no memory of anything, and the man in front of you says, "What will be your last of the 3 wishes?" With no other options, you ask to regain your memory. The man grants it and says, "Funny, that's the same as your first wish."